board meeting for October 17th. The agenda is accurate as it was posted online. Communications, everything has been posted. There weren't any late additions, right, Mary?
Everything's been posted.
Great. The board has been able to review the minutes from previous meetings. Our last meeting was canceled. So we will then jump into the public hearing. And we are going in the order in which it appears. So that means we are going to 300 Flynn Avenue. Do we have the applicant here? You wouldn't mind coming up, introducing yourself, and giving us a bit of an overview. Oh, yeah, I do. So who will be speaking for the applicant?
My name is Sam Beal. I'm a condition of architecture, and Sandy McGuire is a student from college.
And then
Kevin Warden, Engineering Ventures, Civil Engineer.
so I'll just swear you in.
This is very helpful. Joe White, the Point Park, Mike Willard, BHP.
Okay. Thank you. So if you are speaking on this matter, please raise your right hand and swear that the testimony you give tonight is true and complete under pains and penalty of perjury.
You swear?
Yes.
Sandy, yes, Sandy. All right, go ahead.
So we have all of the drawings here. I'm going to share them by Zoom. Let's see if I can.
The board does have on their laptops, they do have options to download anything.
So you saw everybody was here today to support the project we presented at sketch plan about a couple months ago. I don't know that, I believe Leo, you were here, but not Evan. Were you here? You were here. Okay.
I did watch the original presentation.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure I understand kind of what you know, what you don't know, because we're going to focus on some of the staff report comments as well as some of the things we've heard at sketch plan and how we address them. Before we get into that, I want to give Sandy a few moments just to introduce the project and talk to Kevin. We'll talk about landscape. I will talk about the architecture, and then we'll turn it over to you guys for questions.
Sounds good.
Great, thanks, Sam. Good evening, everyone. I'm Sandy McGuire, and I serve as Howard Center's Chief Financial and Operations Officer. I'm excited to be here tonight talking about our redevelopment project. It's been a long time in the works. We began searching for a solution to our increasing facility needs more than 5 years ago. And the project before you, demolishing the existing 24,000 square foot building and constructing a new 50,000 square foot building, will enable us to do a number of things. It will enable us to co-locate services, providing efficiencies for those that we serve, and to increase the care coordination across our multidisciplinary teams. It will provide a contemporary workspace that supports technology, productivity, and collaboration, while also supporting the more fluid and flexible workplaces of our staff today. It'll support our continued growth as we respond to the community need. It will provide space for on-site primary care services for those that we serve, and generally provide a welcoming and safe, inclusive, and functional spaces for the staff and those that we serve. And so with that, we will be better able to continue helping those that we serve and our community thrive by providing the supports and services that we do that address mental health, substance use, and developmental needs. So we're really excited about this project and excited to be here before you all tonight, and really appreciate your time and consideration of this project tonight.
Sandy. So I put a full civil set and the full landscape set. I don't know that we need to go through the full civil set, but Kevin, if you want to just give us a few highlights of the civil site plan, I'll take you to the proposed, and we can come back to the existing if there's questions.
Sure. Briefly, it's, hasn't changed much since we met with you. It's schematic design, sketch design, and briefly, the parcel is on the corner of Flynn and Pine Street, right down the road here. The north half is the Anglesby Ravine. It's well treed on the north and south side of the ravine. There's steep slopes down to the brook. It's a wetland area and there are protective zones coming to the south towards the development. We met about maybe a month or so ago with the Conservation Commission in this room and had a productive conversation. And Art Gilman, the wetland biologist who did the delineation, presented that really it's almost park-like down in the ravine because of the overgrowth canopy. There's not a lot of invasives, there's not a lot of undergrowth, and it's just open. And probably the main thing to mention is preserving those trees and the shade of the ravine and doing what we can to prevent invasives from spreading is the main goal there. South half of the site, of course, is the developed site, and we're really staying within areas that were pre-developed, whether they be building, paving, lawn, built or out accessory buildings. And as you know from the summary, that the building has grown by about 100%. It's double the size of the parking, it's double the amount. And that's done through efficiently laying out the site, putting parking under the building. And I think the main characteristic to mention is that while the existing site drains to the north into the wetland without any treatment, the entire site now will be collected, treated, and retained to the state standards and the city standards before being released into the site. Otherwise, circulation-wise, there's a curb cut that's maintained on Pine Street, which serves a very small parking area, mostly for use with the function in the Pine Street portion of the building. And then there's the larger parking lot, which is accessed from Flynn Ave. The curb cut moves a bit to the east and facilitates people coming and going, but also the shuttle used by the Howard Center, ambulances, other vehicles that would need to circulate through in an efficient manner. I think that's about it. We're working with the DPW, continue to work on water and sewer, but all that's pretty standard fare.
Mike, you want to join me up here? We'll talk a little bit about the landscape plan. At the Conservation Commission, there was a discussion about these native species on the site. We had a discussion about that, and I'll sort of speak to that, and then we'll talk about the Tom trees.
Yeah, so as Kevin highlighted, so the main entry to the site there's coming in off Flynn Ave, and so there's this building facade that parallels Flynn Ave. Is there's a lot of sort of ornamental plantings along there, and there's a sort of a rain garden, stormwater capture treatment there. So it's sort of highlighting it's serving two purposes: one for the stormwater treatment, and then also sort of to really address that frontage along Flynn Ave. So there's a lot of landscape plant material along there that engages on the public side. And that's also sort of the main entry. You come in off the sidewalk, the front door is right there, coming in off the Flynn Ave. And that also sort of coincides with sort of Bible sequence coming into the building, the signage, that sort of stuff. So that's really the primary focus of most of the landscaping. There are sort of shade trees that are in the parking lot where the islands are created to meet the shade requirements and the sort of large canopy shade plantings. And then as Kevin said, we're not really doing much on that northern portion of the site, just retaining as many trees as possible. Moving to the east on Pine Street, there's a secondary sort of entrance and engagement along that streetscape along Pine. And so again, there's some additional plant material there to sort of highlight that building entry and that public access point on that side of the building. And then there's various sort of, as Kevin highlighted, there's some stormwater treatment areas, and those are sort of vegetated out as well with additional plant material.
Just some planting area enlargement.
Yeah, so what Sam just brought up, this is the site lighting plan, and we really tried to keep it very simple, recognizing that on the immediate west, that I think it's 288 Flynn, that's a residential property, that existing building that you see running north-south. And so the lighting, we try to really keep core to the internal parking lot and maintain good illumination around the site circulation coming into the site. And then there's some building sconces and sort of under canopy lighting that sort of highlight the building entry. And so the parking lot lighting are by the E and F fixtures. And I think there was one staff comment about the site lighting saying that we weren't meeting the city standard for the max to min ratios. And so using sort of the city standards requirements about really keeping lighting dropping off as you reach the property line. And then also recognizing that the existing building, the residential piece, it's really those like 5 or 6 spots up in that north west corner that are sort of, they're at a 0.1 valuation. And if you sort of excluded those from the entire calculation, we would meet the max to min ratios. So to that point, it was designed really purposefully to keep the lighting low as we reach that parcel boundary. And doing that, those few spots that are right at literally the edge of the parking lot are the lowest, which are sort of skewing that sort of calculation. We could certainly meet that requirement, but that E fixture that's on the left, we would have to increase the wattage of that fixture, putting more light on the site, which we don't really feel is necessary to meet that city requirement.
So you would add more wattage, but you would keep the light more in the property.
No, the opposite. We'd have to add. So the fixture heights are 22 feet. City allows 25. We're recognizing again, we're next to residential neighbors. Feel that 22 is sort of that comfort zone of traditional like parking lot lighting. So for that E fixture, for those 5 or 6 spots to meet the city standard, we have to increase the wattage of that one E fixture. So we have to go up in wattage to meet the requirement. And sorry,
Lower the light?
no, keep it at the same way.
As you're saying, it's due to the ratio, the max. min ratio.
Exactly, it's really an anomaly of 5 spots of the, I don't know how many spots are calculated. It's literally right after parking. Per line. Sort of just skewing the numbers.
That maximum ratio is it reflects an evenness of lighting, so you're not walking through dark spots and odd spots. The lighting plan as has been designed reflects the intentional diminishment of lighting near a residential structure next door. That's not really anticipated when we're reading standards for evenness of lighting.
Any other questions on that? So moving along to the architectural piece, when we were here at sketch, one of the comments from the board was concerns about the entrance and the prominence thereof. And so we heard that and we worked on some of the design here to increase that prominence and make that entryway more inviting while acknowledging the fact that we do need to open towards the parking area being that people will be arriving by car. And so some of the changes are we brightened it up. We have a terracotta colored siding at that entrance. It's looking a little washed out on the screen, but trust me, that will be brighter. We've got more signage. We have 300 underneath the awning there, and we put a help is here sign out in front of the landscape, as well as a sort of boardwalk style entryway to create that threshold condition so that as you walk through the sort of rain garden landscape piece, you feel like you're going somewhere rather than just going across the sidewalk. So that was a couple design moves that we made intentionally to try to address some of those comments. Here's another detail of that. You can see the boardwalk a little bit more clearly there, as well as the help is here sign, which helps to screen the bicycle parking. The Flynn Avenue facade didn't change remarkably. We still have the diachroic flags. I use the term flags, but they would fix grades elements of the facade. You can still see the entryway has changed slightly there. An aerial perspective. And then this was another concern, or I shouldn't say concern, but question from the board was this Pine Street elevation, which wasn't really rendered in a previous application, and so this is updated. And so the brown siding there is a vertical metal siding that extends up and bifurcates the large format clapboard siding that's rendering as white, as well as the vertical blue metal siding around. Howard Center referenced windows. We brought the same terracotta piers across here, but lowered them to create sort of screened in outdoor patio that opens onto the community room. Those larger doors there, what I was referring to previously as garage doors, they are overhead doors, but they're not accessing a garage. So my apologies again for the words I used previously, but those will be glazed and used similar. If you've been to Hula, you have some of those glazed overhead doors that allow you to have that nice relationship between the indoor and the outdoors. And that's the smaller Pine Street lot there. So
When you folks were here last time, those garage doors we talked about, that's Howard Center space, right? No?
yes, yep, so that will be that'll be controlled by Howard Center, but used for more community oriented events. So I can run through architectural plans, but I think at this point, I'd rather turn it over to you guys to see what questions you have from either the staff comments or the drawings we've submitted. And then we can address those as needed.
It wasn't that long ago we saw it in sketch, and so we understand what the project is and what it's for.
Questions from the board? It looks great. I think that's great materials things. I got confused by one thing in the staff report about using the roof terrace. That said something about not using a roof terrace, and you have a roof terrace, right?
Yes, I think, was it referencing the potting sink? Was that the?
Yeah, that was, we talked about that the first time.
Yes.
So that's in the conditions
The
of approval.
rooftop terrace may be used, but that kitchen, I'm sorry, the potting sink area cannot be habitable because they are exercising a height exemption.
So it can be used, but it's not habitable.
You can have like a rooftop deck, but you can't have,
Can't have sleepovers.
you can't have like a bathroom up there or something, right? Because that makes it habitable space.
Bathrooms aren't considered habitable by definition.
There's no bathroom.
You
so-
can't,
Yeah.
you can't use it as conditioned living space upstairs out on the rooftop because.
But they can have vents up there.
They can,
It was
Yes.
just confusing. So that-
public, yes.
That's really, and I thought the entry was better. Yeah, several kind of things, but I think that really makes a difference. Based on-
Yeah, I mean, I think when we came in and sketched, it was sketchy and it needed more work and, we always benefit from another round of the design, so I appreciate it.
And then up and down the Pine Street corridor, despite my frustrations with it today, I apologize for being late. We've worked to increase the pedestrian accessibility to Pine Street in general.
Yes.
And so I appreciate the changes, or I don't know if they're changes, you know, they have.
I think it's more articulation and.
Yeah,
frankly,
the
just
articulation
more-
of the Pine Street facade, I think that creates an entry. And, at least as to residents or users who have access to the building, they can access that. So it's-
Any other questions from the board?
Anybody in the audience here have a comment on the application?
If there's anyone online who wants to speak, would you raise your hand? I have no one.
Well, not hearing anybody else, I guess we'll
Close the application, close the, Joe?
Actually, I just have one question. So, I did see in the staff report, one of the proposed conditions is to revise the lighting plan so that it complies with the maximum ratio. And as Mike described, he thinks that what we have proposed is a better lighting plan for the project.
Mhm.
So I guess I'm gonna ask.
Yeah, we're gonna deliberate.
Okay.
So I'll close the public hearing and we'll deliberate on this in assuming tonight. So,
Thank you. Thank you, Sam.
thanks, thank you.
Thank you, Sandy.
And the next item on our agenda is C 182311 457 South Willard Street. Appeal of notice of violation for fence removal.
Yeah, we get to go first.
Yeah, we'll take it. And space.
That is there something you want me to open?
Just a few photos. Good to see new faces on there. No, the board right here in the middle is. Are probably not happy this evening, but
That's fine.
this is the first time we've met.
Okay, so this is an appeal of a notice of violation. In that situation, we ask that the city go first and articulate the basis for the NOV. And we please do a group swearing. So
Just the first one.
if there's anybody who wants to speak on this application, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I swear that the testimony I'm about to give is true and correct under the pains and penalties of perjury.
I do. Great. All right, thank you all for being here. My name is Ted Miles. I'm the code compliance officer for the city of Burlington. The property in question here is 457 South Willard Street. The complaint is about a relocated fence and a retaining wall. This is a citizen complaint that came to our office April of this past year. The fence that existed previously was permitted as a 6-foot stockade fence back in 1980. Approximately 2 years ago, the fence was replaced, and in its replacement, a retaining wall was installed at the lower of the fence, and the fence was relocated approximately 4 to 6 inches from its previous location. It was enough to trigger a complaint. Somebody. The retaining wall that the fence sits on, I would point out here the difference between these two, just so we understand.
Let me just scroll back.
Nope, you're good, is this right here. Okay. And the reason we're able to identify the fact this was relocated is based on the sidewalks. Line of the sidewalks, the panels, if you go to the previous one, if you can. This is where the fence was previously, here's that same line in the sidewalk. This is where it existed previously. So it was relocated further down this way. It was enough for your complaint, which is why we're here. The warning notice.
And we're sure that the sidewalk hasn't been rebuilt.
The sidewalk has not been rebuilt. It's still poor condition and stuff like that. The complaint, warning letter was mailed on April 14th this past year. Notice of violation was issued on August 28th. The defendant did appeal in a proper manner and a timely manner. Here, where it's property here. The retaining wall would require a zoning permit. Had the fence been just redone in the exact manner it was, would not have required a permit, but because it was relocated and made taller on a retaining wall, does trigger the requirement for zoning permit. The fence that did exist was 6 feet tall. It is now currently 7 foot 3 inches tall. Fence that exists there to the left is a driveway, so it violates the clear side triangle requirements of not more than 3 feet. The ordinance does not give any minimals that they can do something with the fence, whether they make it higher, whether they move it 4 to 6 inches, whatever, it just requires that you can't take a non-conforming and make it more non-conforming, which is why we're here. So we're asking the board to uphold the violation as it exists.
What was non-conforming? Yeah, she's also specific.
Previously, there was a 6-foot fence that when you see there, you can see to the left of it is a driveway. So under today's ordinance, because it violates the clear side triangle, would be non-conforming to today's.
Or it wasn't non-conforming, but it's still.
Right, it was accepted and it was permitted as a 6-foot in that configuration that was back in 1980.
And there's no dispute that if that fence is knocked over by a snowplow, or destroyed by snowplow, they could rebuild a 6-foot fence in exactly that same configuration, correct?
Correct.
Right, so is the increased nonconformity just the amount of the fence above 6 feet that's in the triangle?
Right, clear side triangle doesn't allow higher than 3 feet. Within clear side triangle,
But they could rebuild it at 6 feet. So the increased nonconformity is just a foot and 3 inches. That is above the prior 6 feet in the site. plan.
and location. Because they relocated the fence.
Right. But is that a nonconformity? Is the location down slope?
Yeah, just the non-conforming part is where it's a clear side triangle. Outside of clear side triangle, they can have,
So they could get a permit, to move it to where it's currently located.
no,
They couldn't.
no.
If it were 3 feet, would it be where it's currently located?
Yes, they would have to cut it down to its 3 feet height at ground level to meet the clear side triangle. But they would not be able to.
So. So I understand, it's in the clear side triangle. Regardless of whether or not it's in its current location or its 2014 location.
Correct.
If they just rebuilt the fence where it was originally, there'd be no issues.
Correct.
I have a question about how the height was measured, because I feel like we have talked about this before, that the retaining wall height doesn't count.
Yeah, we've talked about this before.
So is the height you referenced measuring from the ground or from the top of the retaining?
From the ground.
Okay.
Yeah, because it does increase that height.
So you would consider from the ground to the top of the fence, that entire thing to be a fence?
It's part of the fence is sitting on top of it. The way the ordinance is actually written, the ordinance says 3 feet from curb.
For the sight line?
Right.
Do you know what it was when it was built as a 6-foot fence?
I don't understand your question.
Do you know how the ordinance measured fence height back when it built the 6-foot fence?
I do not. But it's clear from the photo before though, it was not this.
It wasn't retained.
I understand that.
So the fence is on top of the retaining wall?
Yes,
Just one portion of it.
just like the
driveway.
back portion that goes parallel with the driveway there.
The rest of it is not.
Right. Rest of it is sitting at ground level. You see there, you can see there's,
Can you go back to
in the newer pictures, you can see where the fence actually steps.
Can I ask solutions here? The city's view, sounds like there are two.
G3.
I know two, maybe. One is move the lower fence line back to where it was. Then they could have a fence that's up to 6 feet in total height. Within the sight line.
No. Because a non-conformity has been, because this fence has been in existence for 2 years now, if they replace a non-conforming, it has to be done within a year. Outside of the 1 year period, they lose that non-conformity.
Okay, so tell me your 3 solutions.
So the 3 solutions that I have is either they need to remove it. Apply for a permit to put it down to the 3 foot height requirement, or they can move it outside of the clear side triangle.
Okay, so 3 foot in the area that's in the sight line, they need to restrict.
Right.
Cut out section of the fence.
Right, it would be 15 feet along the driveway side and 25 feet along the sidewalk.
But to me, it would have to be a tree back to be out of the site.
It would have to be gone.
Yeah.
Well, it would take it that 15 feet along the driveway and 25 feet along the sidewalk. And then,
25 feet.
Yeah, so that's effective. That's like 90% of the fence, right?
it actually goes back quite a ways.
But I'm sorry, I gotta come back to something. We're talking about the fence, but not all portions of the fence are substantially, I mean, like. You've talked about the retaining wall increasing the height, but as far as I'm concerned, the entire sidewalk facing part of the fence is exactly the same height as it was before, if I compare the 2 pictures. There's no retaining wall there, they're net the same. So at best, we're talking about the delta being a few inches on the ground, laterally, inward or outward.
It would, yeah, we'd be talking 4 to 6 inches in the westerly direction.
But height wise, like the sidewalk facing front, that's not on the retaining wall. Looks to be plus or minus the same as what it was.
Yeah, it looks, you can see at the bottom on the sidewalk side there, closer to the corner, it is elevated.
Is it on a retaining wall there, or is it just elevated?
It's just
It's
like,
kind of elevated in the old photo, if I zoom in, to be honest with you. This looks like the grass had grown up.
gets in the corner, because it steps up.
Well, it looks like it's elevated there, it's the grass is grown, if I zoom in. So,
So if people can rebuild things, same material, same size without a permit, right? You can use siding to replace windows, a little touchy maybe, but you can do a lot of things. So if they were just rebuilding this same materials, they actually wouldn't need a permit for anything, right?
Correct, they would not need a zoning permit. Had they replaced it exactly the same as it was, they would not.
So I'm just trying to think of how one knows that what was conforming is no longer conforming if they're replacing it in kind. It's hard, there's no real way to know that until somebody comes along and checks and then it comes out, right?
Correct.
Correct.
I have a question about retaining walls, because I thought that small retaining walls did not require a zoning permit.
I feel like we just had that conversation twice with that, with the, Ronald McDonald House, and actually came to that conclusion too. But that also could be form-based code districts.
That is. We should check on.
And the big piece is, it's a public safety issue, because that is an active driveway that's versus homes. It is a public safety issue to that public sidewalk if they're using it.
But
So that's really.
it's really more of a non-conforming.
The question I have about safety though, is if the clear sight line happens at 3 feet, is it really more non-conforming? You can either see or you can't see from the car.
Well, 3 feet sitting in your car, you can see over it.
Right, but you couldn't see over the previous fence and you can't see over this fence.
Correct.
Right.
It's once if you replace it same the same,
Yeah.
you can keep that non-conformity, but once you move it, you don't have to comply with today's ordinance, today's regulations, which is why we're here.
Mary, would you mind pulling up the applicant's photos? The applicant's submissions photos, I just want to ask about any photo. The last photo on their submission.
Exhibit 1, this is what we're looking for.
Yeah.
Exhibit 2, here, I'll start with there.
Third to last photo.
So it's on your.
Here is. You have a
Keep going.
specific page, Jeff, that you'd like?
Yeah, this is the page, it's page, on the PDF is page 24. Yeah, and what it looks like, it shows the retaining wall with the old fence corner. It's still there.
This one, Jeff.
No, we don't, down further. Going.
Second from the
Keep
last.
going.
Okay, 19, 20.
Is that the old fence corner or is that?
21,
It's from there. I mean, you may not know.
23,
Next one.
Little extra
20 more,
There
20.
we go.
Is this what you're looking
Yeah, that's
for?
it. If you can just scroll a little bit. So it looks like in that photo, you can. I'm trying to understand, and maybe the applicant has to get this. Can you scroll up so we can see that?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Go back to that photo,
This one?
but a little high, there.
That
So
one,
it looks like that's the old fence. The old fence post,
This here.
yeah, with the new retaining wall built in front of it. And it seems like the bottom of that fence in this photo is the old fence is very close to the height of the new retaining wall. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Seems like the retaining wall was actually dug in.
You're not, you didn't take this photo, you're not positive exactly. what it should be. Trying to figure out if our 6 feet is measured in the same place as the current. And height. Use that measure.
Well, I measure from ground level.
Okay.
The ordinance has a measure from curb level, so like on these properties that actually have a little bit of an incline. If you actually measured from curb level, some of them would not be at that fence at all.
But that
Especially in
fence,
some of this section.
do we know what the actual height of constructed existing grandfathered non-conforming fence actually was?
The fence that was 6 feet, which is what they're permitted to have.
Right, I understand that's what they were permitted to have. I'm trying to understand, do we know the actual? It's grandfathered, so whatever it was is what they're allowed to rebuild.
Yes. Yes.
Do we know what the actual height of that edge of the fence was?
I can only assume it was actually 6 feet in height, because in this one here, the newer photos, you can see where actually section where the fence looks like it was sitting on top of the retaining wall was actually cut off. Looks like someone at the bottom of the fence was cut off to sit on top of the wall. In this one that I have, in the section where it's actually the fence, and here, you see that part of the fence at the bottom was cut off to fit onto the retaining wall, which is why we have an odd 7'3" fence.
Okay. That's all I have.
Any other questions for Ted?
The applicant or landowner opportunity. Mark, how are you? Good. Introduce yourselves and. Yours.
Homeowner. Perpetrator of the fence.
Yes. Well, you heard our discussion with Ted. I think it's.
Well, I'll try to pick it up where it was in the conversation.
Is there something you want me to put up, Mark?
No, that actually works really well. If you look at the base there, the fence, that was added to the new location. It extends a little bit further into the, the site triangle. Our position is the first 3 feet are free. That the site triangle setback doesn't start until you get about 3 feet. That's 20 inches high. So that is not a non-conforming. With regard to height, fence is still in the same location as it was originally built in, as far as we can tell. It may be up a little bit higher, but it's not extending into the sight line any more than its predecessor did. So that's not increasing the non-conforming. The fact that it's a little bit higher at this point, maybe a foot higher, really is meaningless, because unless you're dealing with a 7 foot tall person versus a 6'5" person, you're not increasing the degree of the non-conformity. And this is actually designed for cars and pedestrians, normal people. Going up a little bit does not increase the non-conformity. So we're sitting here looking at the situation. This fence has been here since 1980. It's 43 years in this location. It has incredible landscaping on the inside. If you could show those pictures, which we would have destroyed to rebuild this fence at a different location. And, with regard to the idea of safety, I could put a hedgerow in here, completely blocking off all vision. It's 8 feet tall, and no one could stop me in the zoning board. So the idea that this, as it relates to a fence, actually provides the safety that people are talking about. It does on one theory, but not on another. So we're looking at this from a standpoint is we're allowed to change and alter the natures of fence as long as we don't increase the degree of non-conformity. In this case, the area of the fence that counts relative to the sight line is not been expanded. And therefore we feel like we exist as a pre-existing fence in compliance with both statute and the ordinance.
Essentially, 6 foot fence versus whatever the measurement is today does not materially affect the degree of non-conformity, because it's.
In the base of.
I mean, you're already above 3 feet, so. To extent, unless you're below 3 feet, it's immaterial.
Yes. And to the extent that there's any expansion further into the sight line by the base of the fence, that's below 3 feet, therefore it's not even, it doesn't trigger the set. Pretty straightforward.
These, the sections of new fence, those are just standard 6-foot section, nails fence, right?
It's pieces of panel fence, which is what we had before.
Yeah.
The reason we put in the base there.
You do the retaining wall for the winter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, we put that in because and I foolishly did not take pictures of the fence that we replaced. We replaced it because it was sagging out into the driveway, really. I mean, it was, the old fence was rotten. My husband and I had replaced the fence once since it was, we bought the house in 1986. This is the second replacement. The first replacement wasn't holding. That wasn't holding. So, so the guy who was putting in for me said, base here. And so we put that in because it's on a hill, you know, and the rain, you know, and it just goes down. But it has the same kind of fence panels.
Yeah.
If that's answering your question, Charlie.
I guess the city's position, we always struggle with this, is the language in the cases say any increase in non-conformity is not allowed.
I think the cases actually say the opposite. I think the cases say if you're going up, as long as you're not increasing, if you're talking about a setback, if you're going up and not out, you're not increasing the degree of non-conformity. I think there's a case that said in the case where it was somebody adding volume to a residence above the sight line. And somebody complained that they were expanding the non-conformity above the setback, and the court said, no, that's not expanding non-conformity.
That's because the non-conformity you were dealing with there was horizontal. We're dealing with a conformity.
Yeah,
It's a vertical.
But the vertical, there's no height limitation that we decided as to how high a fence can be in this location. I would agree with you if in this location, the ordinance says you can't have a fence over 5 feet high, we'd be in violation, but there's no such language in our fences to come. So we're not increasing the degree of non-conformity. I mean, the question is, if you look at the case, Google, and you say you zero down to this yard, and you say, okay, here's a fence in 1980, and it's in this location. And then you come in 2003, and you look in the same location, you see the fence in the same location. That's what we have to meet. This is all setback. This isn't height.
But I mean, it's the view triangle.
Yeah.
The view triangle sets a limit on the height. I understand you have an argument that you are currently allowed to go above that height based on your grandfather pre-existing non-conformity. But is increasing your grandfathered height from 6 feet to 7.3 feet, which I'm still not clear on. Like, I haven't heard for sure.
How far do you think it would be, though?
The increase?
Yeah.
I would think it was less than that, but I mean, to me, I didn't question it because we were still using the thing, you know, the standard now. But
Can we get a picture maybe of the inside of the wall?
we do have pictures of it because.
Can maybe give some sense of it.
On the inside part.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The older sections show the brick.
that's new, that's new.
So I think 6 to 7 feet wouldn't really, I would agree that it doesn't have an effect except for a limited amount of people. But right, under the same arguments, if you had a 3.5 foot fence
section.
and went to 5 feet, right, you would technically not be in more non-conformity, but I think any normal person would be able to see.
Yeah, I mean,
over that fence.
that's a point, point to be made. If I was at 3 feet or I was 4 feet, for example, I decided to go to 6 feet, then you couldn't see over, then I.
Well, with the fencing on the ground. New stuff.
6'5" and 7 makes a difference relative to the rest of the fence. Yeah.
So the fencing is better.
Hey, Mary, I have a question. Ted referenced something in the ordinance, a definition of fence height. I just been looking for it. Do we know if that's there? Because I know the clear side triangle says, the provision on the clear side triangle says 3 feet from the curb. But where do we actually, is there a definition? I just looked at fence and height, and building height doesn't say where to measure a fence from.
Where to measure, I mean, as a structure. Maximum height would be 35 feet, you're just looking where to measure from.
Yeah, where does it say like it can only be 6 feet for a fence? And where do we actually have the measurement? Like where do we measure a fence?
Like, do we measure from the top of the retaining wall?
Do we measure the fence? Do we measure the slope of the ground?
Well, the retaining wall itself would have required a zoning permit, it's within 2 feet of the property line. Consumed property line, I'm not certain of that.
You're gonna notice violations for, yeah, the triangle, anything else.
So you're basically using fence and plan relative to any property lines, right? It's in the same place it was originally. The retaining wall projects out a few inches past the
Yes,
retaining wall, but the
It does,
fence
it does.
itself.
The dirt is where it was, so, and the wall is against it, right?
In the picture that's up on the screen now, the old fence considerably higher than the new fence.
In the
In
back.
the back there, yeah.
Yeah,
So the reason for the retaining wall is just keep the fence horizontal, so it doesn't go downhill, if that's the idea.
Exactly, because the previous one, obviously didn't have that. And I'm sorry, I don't have a picture of it. It was not optional, believe it.
it's
It's
a
like-
longer fence than it was.
Well, yeah, usually they twist a little bit to go
Yeah.
down.
Yeah, it was bad.
And the purpose of it really is to support the fence.
Yeah.
So. $43 that fence has been.
Essentially the same configuration,
Essentially
the same spot,
You
plus
can
or minus.
see from the planning, I mean, those rhododendrons are fabulous in there.
You could plant it in this rhododendrons, can easily grow up to 7 or 8 feet,
Yeah,
impacting the clear side triangle.
yeah, so we could put anything, it's vegetarian. And it's not something that this provision, so I've had another fence case like this, the see-through fence. Yeah. We couldn't put the see-through fence up, but we could put shrubberies all along. It was,
So
once in a while, I just go, what?
I have another question about this, just to be, maybe perhaps in the thinking. Sorry, so this is at a driveway, so it'd be 15 that way, 25 that way, is that right?
I mean, it would just, there would be no fence, it would just, we take it out, take out, otherwise we take the landscaping under and then the top things of that nature. Or we opt for the shrubbery thing. It seems kind of a good thing for something that's just for this.
Any more questions from the board?
I have one more question. First, on one of the photos where it shows the retaining wall being built in the section of the old fence still there. Can you tell me if the corner post that's in the corner was replaced or if that was original?
I bet it was, but I don't know.
That would tell a lot, because if that post is still there, it's the same.
I'd be surprised if we left an old post because they were really bought it.
If the pressure treated post, it might still be okay.
Yeah.
Certainly replaced it.
That's true.
It would be the same height as the new fence or what?
The difference would be nominal, it's just 6 foot fences.
Okay.
Did you do a building permit or?
I did not, and that is absolutely on me. I assumed that I was doing a replacement and I didn't even. Do it. I was that Gary.
Right, no, I mean, but at the same time, as Brad said, you're just doing a replace. You read the ordinance, you say I'm doing a replace, I don't go in and get a permit and.
I should have called them, and I did.
We all have regrets. Are you here to speak on this?
No, I'm a neighbor. So I have right of way access to that driveway too. Well, I'm right to replace my fence. I'm curious of what all the feedback will be before I go in.
Okay, well, if there's no more questions from the board.
Is there anyone online that would like to participate?
I guess out of curiosity, is that, so you said that was a right away, is that you? So we're saying like.
You know, there's a strange language in my title that says that I have access to it, so does Hope. That we have.
We have a right of way down that driveway.
Yeah, okay.
So you're on the other side.
He's beside me.
Yeah.
I'm on the corner of South Willard and Howard, and he's
I'm
next
just
to
off
us.
a little bit. Okay, yeah, this is Howard on the side here.
That's
Whatever
registered
Greek
event.
language says.
Kim, see, online,
She is.
okay.
Kim. Floor's yours.
Hello, thank you. So I wasn't familiar with this prior to it coming before the board. But I did review the material that you've seen and also looked at the appellant's memo, and wanted to just kind of point out a couple of things to the board. First of all, there was an assertion about a case in Ray Dunnett in the materials. And I don't think that's a totally accurate portrayal from my read of it, at least. The memo talks about allowing an increase in the roof line height and volume of the non-conforming structure because the degree of non-conformity relative to the setback was not increased. In that case, the roof line, it specifically says, also as noted above, the court determined that the roof line was a permissible enlargement still within the limit of the lesser of the 35 feet or 3 stories, a finding supported by the record. So the roof line still met the structural requirements. So just kind of going to the point, I don't think that case supports exactly fully what was trying to be supported. As far as going up doesn't matter, because I do think going up in this instance is a nonconformity as well as going out. So just wanted to point that out, and certainly can provide the case if the board so chooses. There was also a statement just about kind of the de minimis amount of it, or not substantial. I mean, I guess it goes to the question of what is and what isn't, right? You know, does that mean 9 feet is okay? 8 feet, 10 feet? You know, where's that line as far as what would be okay? The ordinance is pretty clear, no increase. So it would be none, I think, under the ordinance. But so those are just a couple of things I wanted to point out. And I also had a question. Under the original permit, it does say that there is a setback from the front of 15 feet and from the side 5 feet and from the rear 5 feet. But from the pictures, I'm not seeing that. So I don't know if the property owner could, if there's evidence regarding what the actual setback is.
I don't think there is. The fence is where it was when we bought the house in 1986. The setback is where it is, and that really has not changed.
Don't you own a portion of that driveway?
I don't. I thought I did, but I went to the deed, and the deed says I don't. The deed says I own up to the edge of the driveway. Yeah, no, I checked that out last week. Yes, I want to search it, but I don't own it.
Does that come up with the person who filed the complaint and say that you own part of that right away?
I always thought I did.
I told on my lawyer too that I don't.
Yeah.
It's a right of way that belongs
Yeah.
to all the parties along the driveway.
The houses, those two had, Jordan's house and mine, originally owned the property that the budding houses on, and, you know, they were deeper gardens. And people before my time sold the automatic.
Can I, AJ, can I ask Kim?
By all means.
Kim, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Welcome to the party.
Thank you.
Now that
Sorry
you've
not
offered
to be there in person.
Now that you've offered some opinion, I'm interested in solutions here. So the city did not issue the applicant here a notice of violation for the setback. The notice of violation only mentions the sightline nonconformity. So in my view, that's all we're to address is the sightline nonconformity. If the city's got another argument, that's a different proceeding, but it hasn't been raised as a notice of violation.
Understood.
To resolve the sightline issue, Ted didn't like this option, but I think the limited solution to address the claim of the sightline violation would be to reduce the existing height of the fence, the height of the prior fence within the sightline area. Would that solve your concerns?
I don't think so. I think at this point you have to come into conformity, so it has to go down to the 3 feet.
Well, but that doesn't make any sense to me, because they're grandfathered in the non-conformity up to the 6 feet. They could rebuild this fence up to that 6 feet.
Not because it's been over a year, right? That was the whole argument.
Well, is that what you're saying? Because it's been a year since this was complained about?
Yes.
So if they came in and got a permit to rebuild this fence, they could pretty much do what they did. Right? I mean, you know, without the retaining wall, they could put the fence back up the way it is now. Right, same footprint of it, same height. It's just, you know, because they were grandfathered in and they were just rebuilding it. So the sightline triangle is only there because of the time duration between the time it was built, and the time it was the violation. Right. The violation happened within 3 months. They put it.
Yeah, I mean, I would strongly take issue with the legal position, the fact that the fence was put in place a couple of years ago, that we lose our non-conforming status, that is just wrong.
How long has it been since you were first notified?
Since I notified, initial notification, I think was in April.
They've appealed it.
This year.
Right.
And the fence went in late summer and early fall of 2020.
The whole idea of losing your grandfather status comes if we took the fence down for 2 years, that'd be one thing. If we took it down and put it back up right away, different ball of wax. There's no case law or statutory law to support the notion that if you didn't build it right, you lose that forming the new status. We don't like the chainsaw solution.
I know you don't. I don't like it either.
I don't think the height of the fence can put an issue. So if it was there, if there's a limit on the height, you know, the idea of going out there and taking a chainsaw takes 6 inches off, it's just sort of serving a rational master.
I disagree with you on that. I don't like the chainsaw solution either. It doesn't feel like an elegant approach, but I'm not convinced you haven't increased the size of the non-conformity. So
I would agree.
Well,
so but then what we're doing, just to be clear, that'd be talking about just the height of overall height. That's not the location of it in terms of its.
I don't see that the city's giving you notice of violation for the location.
I mean, in terms of we can keep it in the same location as long as it's 6, 7 feet.
I think we have to work through it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just trying to get a sense because we gotta think about this in terms of what are you thinking about in terms of the corner being changed, or are you thinking just about the height of the corner?
We haven't deliberated yet, so we can answer that.
Questions? Nope. All right, close the public hearing and deliberate. We're going to deliberate on tonight.
Good night.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. We have nothing else on our agenda. Other business. So you're adjourned and we can now talk.
Now they're gonna spend more time on fence than.